Let's get started. So let me bring up my screen. Oops. Okay. So today's topic is about smart wallet integration for building Web3 applications. So the idea is that you should have been able to, in the last workshop, create the CRUD application connected to a database. We'll give the solution to that first and then move on to the today's workshop session, which is focused on integrating now the wallet and the Web3 part of it to create it and deploy a smart contract with the UI itself that the user can just click a button, let's say, and log in, see their balance, see their pay mail, enter the pay mail of the person they want to send Satoshis to, enter the amount they want to send it to, execute that, have a successful interaction getting shown that, okay, the payment is done, create and deploy the root contract. For that, putting the bounty amount of satoshis that they want to put on the solution of someone finding the root, choosing the actual square amount, square the number whose root they have to find, and then on the next screen entering the answer and then clicking on the button to unlock the bounty, right? So that's pretty much the way we are going to do it. We are going to make this a very interactive application in which bounties set by you guys would be displayed to everybody else, and anybody can visit your website and try to give the answer and unlock the bounty, right? Enter their pay mail, unlock the bounty. So that's how we want to make it that way. Let's see how much we can achieve today in doing all of this. It's a tall task, but let's get started. So first, I want you to clone the repository I have created for the half of the solution of the CRUD app, in which the create, read, creating the list of names, reading the list of names and emails, and deleting the list of names and emails is already built. I have given that to you. The only operation that's not built there is updating an email, right? So that's what I want to give you as a task, that you complete that by understanding the current code base of what I have given you right now, so that that gives you a scaffolding to begin and understand. I'll also walk through the entire code base right now because we don't have that much time that I do a live coding of the entire CRUD application. So I'll show you of what I have already written for you, and you have to complete it with the update part of it. Sounds good? All right, let's go. So the website is deployed at this URL, which is sweltkit fullstackdemo.vercel.app. And let me just click that and let's bring it up. So this is the website, as you can see. It's a full stack application. Now we'll go through the code base of this. This is just the homepage, the landing page, right? We'll go through how Tailwind has been used to make all of this. It's very trivial. But the main part is not this homepage, but rather the profiles page, right? That's the CRUD application. So if we go to the profiles page, you can see a list of users, fetched one user. I hope you can see my screen. All right. Then the name of the user is new. The email is new at timechainlabs.io, and there is a delete button there, right? Now, let me add another user. So this is a list. It's reading. It's able to read from the database. Let me add a user, which is Rohan Sharan, one at timechainlabs.io. Create applicant. So it's the application is supposed to list all the applicants which are applying to TSOC. Let's say you have a new applicant applying here, and then showing the list, and then we're deleting applicants as well. So let's say I created the applicant and that added it here. So the name is Rohan Sharan, Rohan at timechainlabs.io, and a delete button. Let me fully refresh it, and it's still there. Let me also totally go to incognito to show you that it's actually part of database. It's not just part of the local storage of SvelteKit. Uh, what was it? SvelteKit demo dot full stack demo dot, yes. So this was the application. You can see still having, even in incognito, when we are opening a totally new with no data, it's showing Rohan at timechainlabs.io as well. So that has actually stored it in the database. It's not just on the front end of the browser. So how is this happening? We'll go through the code for this page as well. The delete, let's check out the delete operation. So let's say we click delete. It deleted this and now it's showing Rohan only. So let me refresh as well, and it's still like that, right? So it's able to delete. So three operations of the CRUD it's able to perform. Update operation, I have left it to you so that you learn by doing it yourself instead of having the code available to you. And let's just try once more. Let me add Rebecca, right? Whatever, TCL, and we do this, right? So that's that. And let me go back and I'll show you the code base now for this. So the code base is available. I want to show you the link of the code base as well, otherwise you won't be able to uh, copy and complete. I want you to clone the repository. For that, I'll show you the link here and paste it in the chat box as well. Uh, so creating a name, reading a name has been done, deleting a name has been done, updating a name has been left for you to do. So I want you to clone it, work along with me, make the changes required to make the updating a name or an email possible, and deploy it on your own URL, which will be different from the URL I have shared. It will be your own URL. And that is what you have to submit today in the integration workshop QR code. Now, what we also have to submit today is we are going to make 3 more pages. That's going to be an assignment after that, after I'm going to tell you how to do it. The device wallet page, which is going to create private key and public key pair using the BSV SDK and generate it on that page itself when you click. A cloud wallet page in which the Newcron cloud wallet, you will have the user login to that, see the balance and the pay mail, and be able to see a form in which they enter the amount and the payment address they want to send a payment to, and just click submit, and that will create a payment and show success there. That will be the cloud wallet page. Then the third page that we will add will be the smart contract deployment page. In that, the root puzzle, which we already have the code for, will be deployed with the bounty. That's like the bounty page, which is based on smart contract, right? That anybody who solves the bounty is going to get paid. So that are the 3 pages that are required to be submitted at the end of this workshop. Now going back, how do the pages need to be looking? So profiles is actually the CRUD application. This page itself need to be added with the update ability. Then there are going to be 2 more pages. No, 3 more pages. One is the device wallet page, one is the cloud wallet page, and the third is the bounty page, right? The bounty for the root contract. So all these 3 should come in the navbar as well. Instead of just home and profiles, there should be 3 more pages in the navbar, so that if we click on it, we should be able to visit that page, right? All right, so let's go ahead and let me share you the GitHub. So this is the GitHub for it, github.com Rusty Buddha SvelteKit full stack demo. I want you to open it and clone it. Let me share this link as well on the live workshop. Right, so there you have it. So to clone it, what you need to do is very clear. Let me also follow along with you here on the chat, on the live terminal, with a totally new repo. Okay. Okay, Git. So the way you do it is go to the coding flow folder wherever you are at. Then let's me just maximize this a little bit, and let's continue. So git clone already exists. So I already have this here. So let me just make a new file folder name, swellkit. Let me do it live full stack demo. All right. So there we have it. All of you have cloned it. I hope you have. And let me open that folder. Right. So this is the repository. Now let's go one by one. First, let's run it. For running it, you already know the command. First, install bun I. That will install everything in this repository. Then do bun run dev, and that will deploy it live. And let me open it. So here is the live website. You also have it. I hope all of you are following me here. All right. So this is the same website. Now this, if you go to profiles, it would be giving a internal error. Why is that? Because you don't have the environment variable set. So whenever we deploy it on GitHub, there is no environment variables shared. I hope all of you understand the concept of environment variables. So all the credentials for the database, because database is a very private server which is holding all the data of the user, and that's not exposed. So the code that actually has access to the database is the server code, and the server code needs to access, like our server code is inside profiles page.server.ts. It is accessing postgres url, which is a database url, from private environment variables. Now that is actually not existing here in the local GitHub clone that we made, right? Now, how do you counter that? Is you do the Vercel link with your own database. Let's first stop this Vercel link, and that will set up this. Do yes, and that will create the project. Just enter yes, Rohan's projects, and it will link to existing project. No, I don't want it to link it. Just name it Swellkit Live Full Stack. Which directory where is located? Just enter yes, and that is it. So that will deploy. I don't want to change any of this. So it is linked. So now we have, I close this entirely. Now we have a Vercel project that is totally linked. If you go to Vercel, of your own Vercel, it will have a live full stack demo deployment, right? It's not linked to Git at all, but that is fine. We'll link it later. But if you see this, it is not linked to, it doesn't have its storage of its own. So go to storage and connect it to the database you had made last time, or create a database if you don't. Name, have the database name as names. Make sure you have it as names itself, because in our code base also it is names, the list of names that is getting used. Click connect and click connect. That's it. And that has been connected, right? So this project, the live demo project, has been connected to that repo, to that database. So what is happening here is there is a list of environment variables that have been populated that I want you to go back to. I by mistake closed my Visual Studio Code, and there we have it. Let's continue here. Right. So history restored. Good. Now what we're going to do is Versal pull. So that is going to pull the database credentials. One second. Didn't it connect already? I think it should be giving. Okay, yeah, it has pulled, but it's just not in the way we want it. So for this, it's in .env.development.local inside the .versal folder. So I want you to rather copy this and paste it in your source, not the source, the repo folder, right? And that's it. So that should do it. And now let's run dev again and go to the live website. And you see this has now brought in the list of users, right? So somebody has probably updated this already. Pavan has been trying out the live website, so it has updated the database of my database basically right now. So that's that. Now we have one. So yeah, now this code is working, right? I hope all of you have this working in your own terminals connected to your own Vercel databases. I will just give a little bit of time for you to follow along and see if you any of you have any doubts. Harmeet has said yes. All right. So let's proceed. To understand the code, how is this all happening? It's a very simple structure. So we are going to dive into the code of how we are achieving this. First, let's go to the routes. That's how you understand any Svelte project, how it's structured. The top level page.svelte, but even before that, first check out the layout, top level layout. So what does the top level layout have? It has a navbar component getting imported, a footer component getting imported, both from library folder, the lib folder. So that is the navbar you are seeing here. This is the top navbar and this is the bottom footer. Those have been imported and initialized here, and there is a slot in between that is common for all pages. Even in home, this same header and footer is common. In profiles is also it's common. So right, that makes up the main top and bottom of the page. That's common. Now app.css for tailwind has been imported. That's it. Now let's go to the main home page. Right. So the home page, it's looking like this. It's very static. There's not much here. Welcome to the TSOC coding phase. This has a YouTube link here first. So what is happening there? This is just an HTML file with the Tailwind CSS coded inside. This is curly because we have not given it uh, an alternative text, but don't bother with that. But yes, this is a section of the page. We have made this as a section, a hero section. It only has hero section, and inside that it has a div element. Inside that it has many. The section itself has three, no, two Tailwind classes, which is background has to be white for the entire section in general, and it has to be dark. If you are in the dark version of it, if your setting is dark in your browser or your laptop, then it will show a different background, which is the gray 900. It's a darker background. That depends on what your setting is. Then the padding y has been given as 8. So this gap has been given here as 8, and then x px4, a little padding on the left and right, and then mx auto, which is giving it a margin of auto, which is center aligning this. The entire division has been center aligned. That is mx auto, because margins on both sides have been uh, made equal. So that's that, and you can just go through some of these more classes. There's not much to this. It's a link there, and then it's a heading with more classes. What is the heading you're seeing? Learn Web3 full stack development, right? So it's just learn Web3 full stack development, which is H1 tag, and it has text white, text gray 900 when it is darker, and it is having text 4XL, which is the big size. 4XL is the size of the text in Tailwind. It is extra bold because you can see it's a very strong title. It's extra bold. So those are the elements. Next, there is a paragraph, a very small thing. Visit git.swell.dev to read the documentation. And then there is a link here and a link here, right? All of this is pure Tailwind CSS without any JavaScript at all. No functionality here, right? So this is still what you can achieve and what I wanted to teach you. So many classes here. I want you to understand all of these classes. Take your time, play with them, change a little bit numbers here and there, and you will learn most of the important classes that come in development whenever we use Tailwind CSS. That's why this page exists. All right. Then let's go to the main page, which is profiles, right? So a profiles folder is what you can see next. Inside that, it has the page.svelte, which is its front end, and the page.server.ts, which is its back end, right? So let's go to the page.svelte. So what do we see in page.svelte? First, let's go to page.svelte as well. There are 0 users right now. Then let's check out what's happening here. So here we have, forget the script tag. That's not what you look at first whenever you look at a project. The first thing you look at is what are the HTML elements here that's making up the project. So there is a table that has been imported from, again, library to table.svelte. It has been initialized with data.names. Names equals data.names. That's the table that's giving the list of users, connecting it with the database and showing the list. So that list is this table that's getting shown here, right? Create this. So there is a table right now. It didn't have anything. Now it has something. So that's the dynamic table, right? Now that is dependent on the data variable because it's initializing it with data.names. It's also console.logging it, not that important, just for debugging. There is export let form as well. So there is a form as well here. So this is a form. This is loading something, which is the read part of it. This is the create part of it, which is a form, which is taking in 2 input fields and then submitting it, right? So the table has been initialized. Then you have a form here. It's inside a division. Many classes of Tailwind, ignore that. You have a form. The form is a post method. So whenever you have the submit clicked, it's posting to a URL. There is a button at the end of the form when the form is ending, which is type of submit, has its own classes for having a background of yellow. On hover, it is becoming blue background, and create applicant is written inside it. right? That's the button. There are two input fields before that. One is the name and the other is the email. So there you have it. But the initial part of the form, it has method post, and then it has an action of create. Now this create is question mark slash create, because we have created a, we'll go to the backend part of it as well. We have created two actions. I'll go through the actions part of it as well of Svelte Kit for you to understand what is happening there. But that's just the overview of what is happening here. It's basically a table component imported and a form there, right? So that's how you break down any web application into parts: the navbar, the bottom, the list, the table component, then the form component, right? And then navbar had these pages, and the components that make a part of it are all in library folder. Let me just look at the library folder and show you around as well of what there is in that. There is the footer.svelte, which is again static code, nothing dynamic there, it's just a footer. You can study that and find out how it's working. The interesting element there is the fixed bottom zero and fixed. That's what it's keeping it at the bottom. It's not hovering above just below this. Otherwise, it would have been just below this. But it has made sure that it is at the bottom of the page by having it as fixed and bottom zero. So it's giving zero margin in the bottom and it's fixed there. Rest you can study and get to know by yourself playing with it. Navbar is again just a navbar in which important element here is the flex. Flex is what is creating it. Instead of, when you don't, by default every element goes below it, the next element, the top element. So when you want to put elements in a line, you have to use the flex class of Tailwind. So it puts it in a same line horizontally. The next element comes here. So that's what is making the anchor tags, the links come in the horizontal fashion instead of vertical, right? So that's the link, the button. It has a SVG, which is for this. The icon is linked from the DSOC website, the SVG icon, and that's pretty much it, right? Two URLs have been there, which is, one is the homepage URL, the other is the profiles URL. That's the navbar. The footer and the navbar we have completed. Index.ts is empty, nothing there. Table.svelte. This is the table that got imported here in the main profiles page, right? That's the component. So what is inside table.svelte? It is exporting a variable called names. So the prop, the table, whenever it will be initialized, it will need to be initialized with the names. That's what is will initialize and show the list of names. That's why in page.svelte, no, not this page.svelte, this page.svelte, it got imported with names as the prop because it was getting exported from here, from table.svelte. Then you have the division, and inside that, this is just the decoration of Tailwind again, the all of it. Just ignore that. It has a division and then it has a heading. Heading is list of users. Inside that you have fetched number of users. So that's just showing names is an array. That's what it is getting initialized with to show the list like that. So names is an array. Names dot length is the array length value. That's why it's showing the length fetched one user, right? Like that, it can show the number of users it has fetched from the database. Then it has the list of all users shown as the table, right? That is what you have. After showing fetched one user as a paragraph, it just has the list. So what's inside the list? It's iterating the components using the each syntax of Svelte, taking in the names as the array, initially calling them each as user, having the identity as user.id, right? And because the database that we have made has, I'll just show you a little bit as well here. Inside, when I browse this, you will see it has name, email, and ID. Right now it's a 13 ID. Rest we have deleted. So that's and created at. So those are the things we have saved in the database. So with the user.id, it's having it linked, each component getting linked, so that when you delete it, it's deleting that ID only. Okay, going back to the work, what we need to do is there is the form inside it. Ignore this form. This is just the delete button. But the main thing you have here is two paragraph tags showing the user dot name and the user dot email, right? So they are in flex attribute because we have to show them on the same line, right? That's why they have the flex attribute. So user dot name and the user dot email, that is what is showing both the user names and emails. Then there is a form field for the, this is the part of loading. So first I want to go through the load part. This is loading and this is an action. Here you're just loading and showing the list of users from the database. This is the delete. I won't go into it. That's why I'm not going into this form, which is the delete button. It's an image of a trash can, trashcan.svg, inside a button, which is submitting a form, right? That's the that's the form that's posting to another action, which is slash profiles slash delete. So in the profiles page, there is the server which is having two actions. One is the delete action, and the other is the create action. And yeah, those are the two actions that we have on this page right now, creating and deleting. And we have a load function, right, which is the read. We have the main load function on the server as well, the server file. So it's providing the load, the create and the delete. Now I have left it to you to create the update function on your own and link it to the front end and deploy it. Right? It is an unfinished code, so that you finish it on your own after you understand what's happening. Now what we do is go ahead and check out the page.svelte of our component. No, let's go to the page.server now. We're pretty much done. There's nothing else. So there's the only part left is the page.server.ts. We have gone through this entire thing as well. This just had the form, the name. Oh, we have something left in page.svelte to be covered. We haven't seen this form yet. So let me just complete it. So we had initialized the table initially with names. It has filled it with data.names, and data it is getting from page.server.ts. It is loading the data because the load function has been written in server.ts. It's loading it and showing it here. Then the div element has another form, which is to create. We saw the delete form in the delete table.svelte because there is a delete trash can inside table.svelte. But in the main page.svelte of profiles, there is another form, which is the create applicant form. So this form is calling the create action, which is also in the server. And for that, it is having the two fields, label of name along with that label. So every form field has a label and then an input field. Then this is the label, which is the email, then the input field. The label and the input is there. And that's pretty much it. Two times. There is the ID also. ID is the important element of the input, email in this case and name in this case, because that's what we are going to call when we say in the table.svelte. If you see, you saw user.name and user.email is what got called because the identity what we put it there was name and email. Let's go back. Right. So this is the name and email, and we have the submit button that is creating the applicant. Now there is another element. If you see, once we create, which is only showing if the form is returning a success. Form question mark dot success. This is again a Svelte syntax. Only then it will show added new applicant. If you see, I add a new applicant here and we do this and we create it here. So it adds it and shows you added new applicant here. So that's coming only if the form submits successfully, right? So that's what this element is all about. So that completes the page.svelte. Now the only thing you have not understood is page.server.ts file. Let's quickly go through this. So that's where we are establishing the database connection. And this code is only running on the server. So it's having the access to the environment variables, which is private environment variables that only the server code has access to. That's why we have imported $env static private. So in SvelteKit, we are into routing, no, loading data. Now in that you will see, I'm trying to find where is all the environment variables. Yeah, environment variables. So there is a documentation for environment variables for you to understand the four types of environment variables SvelteKit has. One is static private, then static public, dynamic private, and dynamic public. It's not that much to understand right now, just dig into it later when you have time. But essentially, the Postgres URL was part of the environment variable in .env.development.local, right? This file has Postgres URL. This is the database URL. So this is the variable that is a dependency, because that the page is trying to connect, the server is trying to connect with this database URL at this URL. So that's what we are trying to establish in the load function. So the SvelteKit's load function is essentially called by the page.svelte to load the page. That is what is feeding it with the export data that we saw here. Yeah. So we saw the export led data, right? So this is the load function is actually submitting and feeding it the data. So that is coming from page.server.ts. So what is this going to return is going to become the data that got imported as export led dev in profiles dot sorry, profile page.swell. This is exactly what the load function returns by page.server.ts. So what is it returning? It's returning users as names, the names array. And how is it getting this names array? It's getting it by querying the database by first establishing the connection with the database and then querying the database with an SQL query. One second, I think there is a lot of noise. It's raining. Let me just. Okay, I'm back. So, what is happening here? Versal link is not working for many people. Why is that the case? Hmm. You have not linked the repository properly. Oh, the Vercel link is not working also because you have not linked the Vercel code with the database. I showed you have to link it with the database. If you're getting the 503 error only on this, only on the profiles page, if you're getting the error, not on the home page, are you able to access the home page and not the profiles page? That's because it has not been connected to the database, because the page needs the environment variables. The Vercel app needs the environment variables with the real database deployed so that it can connect with the database URL here. Okay, go back through the entire video again if you are not able to connect. I showed it live step by step with the new repository entirely, so you should be able to do it. Okay, going forward, the load function, I have talked about that. Yeah, so it's going to return the names array Now the names array is going to be fetched from the connections. First is going to establish a connection with a database and going to query it. So how are we doing it? It has the create pool method of Vercel itself imported to create the query, create the connection, and the connection string has been given as Postgres URL, and that is giving us the database connection pool. Then we are just putting it in a try catch block and executing the db.query, in which it is selecting all the fields from the names table. Names is the table name. This is the query it's executing. And you saw on Vercel, the name of the database I had kept was names. So it's importing everything, selecting everything from names and getting it and saving it into the const array, rows, and then it has the names inside it, this JSON object. And that is what is getting returned as names here, right? So that is what is getting fetched from the front end then and getting shown on the front end. That's it. That was the simplest code that is showing you the dynamic latest list of names and with their emails on the website. This is what is feeding the data, that export of returning of the load function with the names, list of names. Then the data.names got initialized in a table that showed you the user.name and email, and that was it, right? If you go, you can see in table again. In table, the names, it took the names, and in that it took each names as a user, and then dot name and dot email got it, and dot id got everything that was fetched from the table. All right, let's go to the next part then, which is the actions. So reading is done by load function. The reading of the dynamic data from the database and showing it on page is done by the load function in SvelteKit. This reading it. Then the actions are what are performed by the SvelteKit actions. Now, if you go inside page.server again, this was the load function which we saw, which we have seen entirely. I'm not going through the error catch. So this catch, this returned the names, and then there was a catch as well. I'll go through this later. It's not much. It's if it's a totally new database, it doesn't exist if it's the first time we're running this code. Then we have written a seed function as well. Here is the seed function, asynchronous seed function. This is going to basically create the database and feed it with some values initially, if there is no database, but ignore that. We need not write it as well, but I have just had that shown. That has been part of the demo. So yeah, it's just seeding the database. If the database doesn't exist, in the catch block, when it throws an error, it's catching that error and creating the database, and then returning the list of users names again, right? So that's what it is doing. I think there was an error there. Yeah. So that's it. So seed function, I won't go through it. It's doing not much, doing the same connection with the database, then initializing the client, connecting with it, and then creating the table, right? What we already did here, right? db.can, we did this. So this is also doing the same thing, running an SQL query. In that, if the table does not exist, it is creating names, ID, name, and email. These are the fields it's creating for the table. This because it's a new table. Then it's creating multiple SQL queries at once with multiple asynchronous calls of the SQL function. of inserting name Rohan, inserting name Rebecca, inserting name Vivek. This is just the seeding three names into the database and then returning all of it as users, and then finally returning users and create table. Ignore all of this. This is fine. This was not needed. Main thing you need to understand is load function return the data by connecting with the database very simply. And that's it. The front end caught it and displayed that. On the action side, so this is the actions I told you about, in which we have two actions, delete and create, right? And inside create, we have the asynchronous function, which is getting the request from the front end, because the front end is submitting the request, which is post data request, which is submitting the form data from the front end, because we are clicking the form create applicant submit, calling the create. If you see on the front end, this is the form. No, this is not the form. This is the form, and it has the create applicant. If you see the form action here, the form was posting the action at create slash create slash, because it's part of the same profiles server page.server of the slash profiles page, so you don't need to mention the rest of the URL. But after that it has slash question mark slash create. So that's the create action for this form. So that form has the create action, and it is loading with the await request.form data, gives all the data submitted from here to the data constant created here. Now we are playing with this constant data.get as email, data.get as name, and storing it as email and name, and then creating the SQL query, establishing the database connection here again, db.connect same lines here, and then creating the client.sql query and inserting into the names table name comma email the val as the columns. What are we inserting? The values as email and name, which we got from the front end, which is this the dollar name and the dollar email as the values. Because why have we used the dollar syntax? Because it's inside a query, entire query is there, and we have to dynamically update the query according to the current name and email we got. So that makes up the SQL query of the real actual name we got dynamically as the input to make up this query string. And on conflict, if there is an email conflict, it won't actually update it. So the email has to be unique. That's a constraint we have put. And then it returns as success true. Now, because success was a Boolean true returned, that is what the page was catching as the form dot success. If this is true, that's why there is the if statement. It is coming as true, only then it's showing the added new applicant. Otherwise, it will not show that. So that is the run through the code for the create, ability to create. We saw the ability to load, which is read. We saw create. So C and R of CRUD is done. Let's see the delete, the last part, before we move on. So the delete is again an action. It's having asynchronous request, same as create here. It's the anonymous function that's getting the request, catching the request, catching the form data of the request. Now, what is the form data? And establishing database connection, and it's getting an ID here, data.get. In this case, it was getting the email and name. It's getting an ID here. So what is that? Where is it coming from? But before we do that, let me just show you what's happening. It's getting the ID, storing it in ID variable, and then it's calling the query of delete from names table. It's deleting from the names table. Where is the clause? Where ID equals $ID is the input. So where the ID of delete that row which has the ID matching the ID and selected. Now that is the dustbins you see here, the trash cans. They all have the button associated with a particular ID of the row. This row ID is what is getting submitted when we click on these buttons. These are all different forms. When you click on it, if you I'll go through the code of that table.svelte. There you will see this. The final part. It has a form of its own, right? Which is hidden. The input here is hidden. It's a different type of input. Here, this were actually visible inputs. We have kept these inputs as hidden. This input as hidden. So there is nothing shown there as such, but it's having a data inside it. It's already got a data because it loaded the data as the user.id. That's the value of this hidden input field. And that is called as id, is the identifier. And that is what we submitted here. And the button itself was not looking like a button because inside the button it had an image. The image was the button that is creating the trash can image with the input as id, submitted as the form, and called here. You got the id, data.get id got fetched, and then that table with that id got deleted, right? So that is completing the cr and d operation. I have left the update operation for you to create your own SQL query. You need to learn how SQL query works of Postgres. To just tweak and research this a bit, you will get it easily. You can either do it with ID or with email, whatever you use as unique. I think ID would be good. Use that, and you will have to create an input field which is not hidden because there is a new field you want here, which is the new email. And you would want to update that existing email here for that particular row. You'll have to match that ID for that row and then update that row. That will create the update operation for you in a form field here, right? So that is what the task is for you to submit and complete. You can submit it in the previous form itself, and that also totally works, or this form also, because finally you have just one Vercel website link which has all these navbar URLs which are showing the create operation. The profiles page is going to show the entire CRUD page that you have made, and the rest of the pages are going to show the wallet integration page. So that completes the CRUD application part, which we wanted to complete on Wednesday. I couldn't take the workshop on Wednesday, so I've completed it right now and the entire walkthrough. So has that been good? Have you all been able to follow it? Say yes in the chat box if you very clearly understood it. And I'll move on to the next part of integrating the wallet. Prince is saying locally it is working. All right. So let me continue with the wallet workshop. Shubham, I am Michael, Kirtina, they all have it and understood it completely. Okay, so very good, guys. Let's go forward. Now, let's create a page here itself, right? In the navbar, let's link that page, duplicate the list tag, and let's have it pasted. In the navbar, we are adding the device wallet. What do we mean by device wallet? I'll come to it. So we'll create a device wallet page and we'll call it, no, let me call it something better than device wallet. Let's call it raw wallet as of now. Raw wallet, and call it raw wallet. Right? So you see raw wallet has come here, right? If we go to raw wallet, it is not found because we haven't actually created the page. It just came in the navbar right now. Let's create the route by creating a new folder, raw wallet, and the URL for raw wallet will be raw wallet, right? So that is what we made, I believe. Here, raw wallet. Yes, so raw wallet has been created. Inside that, we create the new file, page.svelte. Right now, let me bring in the code from what we wrote in the TypeScript BSV SDK, which we used, which is the official wallet and key management SDK of BSV. If you remember, this is a TypeScript SDK, right? And I have given you a gist of how you can create a private key and other things from it in the first workshop. Now this doesn't have the server deployed with the paymail and the UTXOs managed, so is that the source transaction and source output index, all of this is properly remembered in a database. So that's what the Newcron wallet is providing with all those functionalities. So that's what we had the Newcron wallet as another SDK of its own. So we'll make another page for it as well. But I want you to first learn to at least use this as well and create the basic private key and public key pair. We won't be able to create a transaction because we don't have the control over the source transaction needs to be fed here. So what we will do here is just do what we did in the first workshop. Let me bring up the code there. All right, so I've got it. So just a second. Yes, so inside the swellkit live workshop routes folder, we have created the raw wallet, right? Page.svelte. So I have pasted the code here. Now I'll go through it quickly for you and let's run it as well. So what's going to happen here is we have the same code of what we wrote at that time. By importing the BSV SDK library, we are importing the private key from it, and we are creating, now it's a little bit different because it's not just JavaScript. We are actually going to show a page in which we're going to have the user click the button generate new wallet keys, and that will create new keys and show it to the user on the front end, that the private key is this and your Bitcoin address is this as dynamic strings. That's why we have initialized it and written a function of create keys that's running the same code that we ran before as JavaScript, now on the page, on the full stack application. It's using the private key from random to create a private key. WIF is the notation to be able to print the private key in WIF format, and it's just showing that by updating it. So the moment we updated the WIF string, it updates because it's the part of the state of Svelte, let WIF. So it's updating it on the UI as well. And the same goes with the address as well. Address also got updated with the privkey.toAddress function. And that is it. We have the wallet keys created with the TypeScript SDK of BSV. And that is a full stack page. Let me run this. But before that, we need to install, because you can see BSV SDK is not installed. Bun I add BSV SDK. So that installs it. Now let's run run dev. Oh, I am in the wrong repository. I installed it also in the wrong repository. Let me first enter the full stack demo repository again because I opened VS Code again. So bun I add BSV SDK, that has installed it, and there we go, bun run dev. Right. So here we have this raw wallet page. It has generate new keys, private key. Let me maximize this. Generate new wallet keys. It's a very ugly looking button. Let's just beautify this a little bit. So let's put a class. So on click, it's calling the create keys function, right? That's the generate new wallet keys button. Um, let's give it a border. Borders. No. Let's just make it background as black and text as white. At least that much. Let's give it a padding of 5 and no, padding 5 is P5, so it gave it a padding of 5 around this button. That's too much. Let's make it 2. Right. And let's make it a little rounded. So rounded. Let's make it more rounded. No, let it be right now. So we have a good enough button. Let's also give it MX auto. And yeah, let's go to the next part, which is, let me click this button. It's creating a new private key and getting a Bitcoin address and printing that as well. If I keep doing it, it just keeps generating new ones randomly because the random function is here and the create keys function is getting called. So that's what you have the raw wallet page, right? Now, in order to do more functionality, complex ones with the wallet, let's go and create another page, which is the cloud wallet page. Cloud wallet. In the cloud wallet also, let's create plus page dot svelte and plus page dot server dot js. In page dot svelte, what should we do? Let's also link it with navbar first. So in the navbar, let's go in the navbar. Yeah, another list item, which is the cloud wallet. Call it cloud wallet in the navbar. So navbar is now showing the cloud wallet, which is an empty page. Nothing here. Okay, what will we do here? We will put a form here. In the form, the email and the password of your Newcron account will be entered. And you click on login here. And the login will actually send the form to the backend. The backend will create the login for you and save it as a state, as an object which has the JWT, the login JWT that gets called for each function. So after the success of the form, we'll show another form which is going to have the email or the payment of the person we want to pay to, and also the amount we want to pay, and then a button to pay, right? But first we'll also show the balance of the user and their own pay mail as well. Okay, right? So you had the gist from the second workshop of the wallet, SP wallet SDK, in which we went through the Nucron SDK. In that, we had, let me open the gist, Nucron SDK gist. Yes, so what do we have here? So Nucron SDK is imported. Let's just copy all the modules of this SDK. Did we have the wallet balance and the response? Yes, I think we had the entire thing. So this is the SDK. Remember, we were commenting out the balance part to get the balance, then uncommenting to get the balance, and then making the payment, right? Getting a transaction. So that is what we're going to do with the UI now, instead of running the code to get the balance, right? Who is excited to see this code right now? Say yes in the chat box, and let's make that UI. I have shared the repository. This repository is there in the chat box, live chat box, and also if you go back in the video, you will see it's the repository github.com sweltkit full stack demo. That should be easily available to you guys. Okay, let's go to the cloud wallet creation. In this, let's have the page dot svelte, create a form here. Let me just not type everything. We already created a form, so let's use that code. In page.svelte of our profiles page, we already created a very beautiful form. Let's duplicate that entire form, and let's create the cloud wallet form. So in this, instead of create, we'll have login. After login, we are getting the email and the password. So instead of name, it's going to be password. And another input is going to be the email. Email is already there as input as well as here. Let's just put it as first. The first thing it's going to ask is email. Right, so that gives you the email, and let's just close this tag, and then we have the class for password. Let's call it it's a label for password. The input is name is not there as an input. We need to update this. Password is what we are getting. Text, it's type of text, right? Placeholder is enter password, and name is also password. Okay, so that is the input field. Let's just save this. Create applicant is also not there. The button is login, and there is a div element repeated. So let's remove one div element, and that's it. The form has to submit, and it will return logged in. If it submits successfully, let's see what will happen here. It's giving the action of login, but we haven't created the page.server action of login. So let's do that. Login will take, let's go to profiles / page.server.ts. We had our actions here in which we made actions. Yes, so cloud wallet page.server we initiated with actions, right? And let's also go to the page.server.ts again and duplicate. Well, all of this is not duplicatable at all because these are all connecting with the database and doing it. Now we're going to run the Newcron code. So in this, what we need is the ending. Let's go to the cloud wallet page.server. Okay, we will return a success true if we logged in, but we'll return something else as well, which is the logged in object. All of this is not required. It's not create, it's login function, login action. I think that's what we are submitting, right? In page.svelte, we are using login action. So yeah, login is the form action we are creating of SvelteKit. And yeah, this is the login action. It's getting a request. We will do something with that request object. Actually, this is still useful. The first line of it. All right. Let's check it out. Okay. Okay, right now it's a dumb form. And let's see what. Yes, so we had created the form for accepting the login action and getting the form data out of it. We had not exported the form in page.svelte. So here we have added now the export let form as well. So it will export that. Now let's see how that's looking like. Let's run dev, open our page, close the old ones. So we have a cloud wallet. It's having the email and password, and it wouldn't be doing anything with it, just having a logged in state. That's it. Right? The form has been returning successfully. Now we will just try to modify this because right now it's returning the logged in state without doing anything. So let's try. It's giving a success true without doing anything. We need to show the balance and also show the pay mail of the user once they do this. So let's have or go through so the different authentications we had got. So in the request.form data, the data field now has the email and password. Now, as part of the authentication, we have already imported the Newcron SDK. So this is not needed. Yeah, this is still needed. We are initializing it, the Newcron SDK here. Let me take this tab here. Then the authorization module of Newcron is authenticating it. You have got the wallet. The sign up response is something we ignore. And there we have the authentication. So in the authentication, the login email and password we have got. is going to be replaced with our data dot email and data dot password. Right? Then we are logging the console login response, and that has created the object which we can use, the wallet module object initialized, which can be used to show the balance as well. So let's try to share the balance as well. Yeah, so default wallet balance. In this, we are getting the get wallet balance and showing the default wallet balance. In the default wallet balance is something we can export from here. And for that, we just have to add it as part of the return statement. Ignore the address for now, what we had. And we're not trying to make the payment as of now. We'll add that functionality. So let's comment all of that out as well. So let's just do this, commenting out all of this, and let's show the balance. So it returns success along with the balance is default wallet balance. Now this is what we are going to capture in the front end. After having the successful login, logged in, let's just give it here itself. Your balance is form dot balance. Let me just show that in this form, and let's see how we have that. I think that should work. Save this as well. Failed to load URL Newcron SDK module not found. I think we have not imported the Newcron module. So one I Newcron SDK. And that's what we have. Let's try to get this. There's an error we're getting. What's this error for? Validation error. Email is required. Have we not entered the email tag correctly? Let's look at that. The best way to debug this is also to just Oh, we haven't done the get. So it's not just about getting it in data dot email, but we have to perform a get operation. Let me show you that. Yes, this is not going to be data dot email. It's going to be data dot get email, and this is going to be data dot get password. Right, that's going to give the login response, and we have the default balance, and there you have it. That should return the success and the balance. Now let's go through the possibilities of how SvelteKit can also return different objects upon submission, or it can redirect as well. So we, after login, we ideally want the redirect to happen and the URL to be shifted to the dashboard URL of the wallet, right? After the login button is clicked. So that's also something we can do. If you see in SvelteKit, after form actions are taken to the redirect part, in which in the login action you can update if these URL parameters are like this, you can redirect to and then enter the URL. That's not something we will do as of now. We will use the enhance property, and that would be much better. So this enhance property is a way to progressively enhance the front end form by getting more inputs from the backend and interacting with it. So let me show you how we do that. So let's say we create a submit function, and that's going to give us a result. So this result will customize the behavior and update the form immediately. Let's bring that up. First, let's see where are we with this UI which we have built. Your balance is object, so it's not able to show the entire balance. Why? Because the balance object which we get is actually a list of confirmed, unconfirmed, and summary as well, right? So rather we want the summary here, that will add the confirmed plus unconfirmed and show the summary. So let's actually have the tag here as default wallet balance dot summary. This will actually give us the balance. Sales at Timechain Labs. You can use your own as well, the account you created, and get the balance here. Your balance is undefined. Did I type this correctly? Okay, there's more to it. There's data dot balance dot summary. There's a lot of depth to it. We'll structure that properly. Let me just first expand this. Yes, so balance is 2302596. That's the number of satoshis we have in our balance, right? So we're getting that as a basic form response. Now, what else can we do here? We want to call, we want to send a payment to another paymail, right? We want to get our own paymail as well. So let's first do the payment to somebody else. For that, we require this authenticated wallet to be saved in the front end itself. And for that, what we can do is all of this need not be there in the backend. We can initialize and run this script in front end and easily create a form there in the page.swell itself. Or what we can also do is export the wallet module to the front end, because that is been initialized with the authentication of login, and try to do the Newcron payment with that. You can get the wallet history as well. So let's try to actually get this on the front end. What I want to show you though is more important parts. You can still do it yourself. I want to connect it to a smart contract and deploy the smart contract on this page. Since you're getting the balance already here, it's going to be a very trivial step to also fetch the payment, take the payment as input. Or what I can do is just show it very quickly here as which address you want to pay to, as just duplicating this form. Let's do that as well. Okay, so let's open the page.svelte. Let's add another form field here. A separate action is what we will have. Let's copy this entire thing. Right, and now we're going to add more fields to this. It's not going to be login, it's going to be pay action that would get executed. And in this pay action, it will take a pay mail instead of an email of who you want to pay it to. Or let these fields be already. We'll try to figure out the removal of the requirement of email and password later. Let's just add more fields here. Okay, let's try to paste. So we have got the email, we got the password, and we have created new tags of input. In this, we need the pay mail. So the pay mail is entered, and let's say let's get the amount. Amount you want to send. Placeholder will be enter amount. Text type would be a number. ID is amount, and here as well once again we were changing the first. It needs to be the input placeholder needs to be read from email to paymail. That is the paymail, and then we have the password that gets updated to the amount. And that's it. Let's see where we are at with that. We have got another form made here. Let's give some padding also below this. Okay, this is visible enough. Okay. So if we have the paymail and the amount, is that enough for us to execute the backend? We have the payment and we have the amount. Yeah, that should be enough. So let's try to take that over as another action. With the return function, this will be the action of pay, right? And pay is going to have all the similar characteristics on this side of the thing. After that, it's going to change. So let's have this duplicated, and instead of login, we have the pay. And this action is taking in the new cron object, having the same wallet module created, and it's not getting used as of now, but we will make it get used by bringing over the code for the payment. Let's say we got the payment here, and that's brought over. And uncommented. In this, we instead of the address, we put the paymail here. Let's say the paymail is data.get paymail, and note remains Guru Dakshina. Let's say the amount is data.get amount, how much amount you want it to be transferred. right? And then we have the pay response. Now the pay response object is what we can return. So let's return that. Instead of default wallet balance, there will be pay response. And let's see how that pay response looks like. As payment object. On the front end, we will capture it as payment was successful. Here is your transaction, and it can be a hyperlink. Here is your transaction. Let's make this an anchor tag. And with the transaction link being here. All right, it won't show the balance, but rather show the payment. We'll look at the payment object, how it looks like. Based on that, we'll edit this. Let's look at this property, how it's going now. It's still showing, yeah, payment and amount. Let's go over this. Sales at timechain.io. It's having string. The pay mail is, let's say I'm paying to my handcash account, cash.io, and let's do a payment of 12 satoshis. And let's view this object. It's having an error. Let's see what the issue is. Pay request failed with status code 400. When this happens, it's best to also check in our docs if the docs are working, and in the API itself if there's an issue or is there a problem with our front end. So if we go to the pay endpoint, try to spend, that seems to be working. There should be no problem here. So we must be doing an error in sending the payment. This let's make it pay. We've got the amount, the pass. Oh, we have not actually passed all the details correctly, I believe. Let's go back. So we have got the amount and the pay mail also. Let's see again. What could be the potential error here? The error that we are reported is it's having a pay request failed with status code 400 at pay.transaction spend. Are any of you able to get the successful payment with your accounts? I think there could be a problem with the accounts. Do we have the login response before the error that can help us debug this? Yes, the login response is correct. Access token was fetched. So the login was successful, but only the payment request is failing. Let's print out the output, the options of what we have got here. Logging the options to see if we are having unexpected behavior debugged there. No, it has everything correct. It caught the amount also correctly from the front end. It caught the address also correctly. So it's submitting the amount also correctly. I think there could be a problem in the SDK itself then. So all of these fields are correct. Okay, we'll come back to this and rather move on to the next problem statement, which is to make the smart wallet. For the smart wallet, let's create another route, which is going to be the bounty. The route will be the bounty for the root puzzle. And for the root puzzle, we have the plus page dot spelt also created there. And we have, yeah, let's first try to utilize this. Also, there's another technique. I think what we can potentially do. Anyway, we'll come back to solving the payment problem later on after we are done with the bounty. So look at the bounty. In the code for the bounty, if you go back to the repository we created for the smart contract repo in which we deployed the bounty, Let's bring that code over and we'll try to deploy it. Okay, so in the page.svelte of bounty, we are going to open it with the script tag, and let's paste in what we had got as a deploy script. So the deploy script was importing a statement from the root directory, which is importing the contract. It was initializing with script SDK, TS, and then the Neutron signer to sign with a wallet, the transaction, and then broadcast it to the blockchain. So for that, we require to do some edits there. We would need to install or bring in first the root contract as well from our old folder, what we had got. So for that, the best way would be copy our contract folder entirely and bring it over in the source directory, pasting the contract folder. Then let's try to install the script SDK as well. Bun I script ts, and let's import also the Neutron signer. That is the connection with the script of our wallet, with which we'll be able to sign off the bounty transactions, the smart contract transactions. That's also there. So we've got both of them installed. Then let's import the contract. No, it's not in lib, but it's the folder before lib. But we can use lib as a reference. That's fine. In contract slash root. So we are bringing that in successfully. Got the script TS, got the Neutron signer. I hope we are installing in the correct directory. Yes, we are. Then we have initialized the signer. We have chosen the amount. Now the amount we have chosen is a constant here, but we would rather want it to be fed from the UI of how much is the bounty. Let's not call it amount, but rather the bounty. And let's make it a let. That's something that can be binded with the front end. Let's create the input value form. Let's bring in the entire form because there's going to be a more complex form, the same form we had created here in page.svelte. Right, now this form is going to take in a bounty. Now what else is it going to take? It's also going to take, it will be for the label is for the bounty as well. The input is also for the bounty. Input type is a number. ID is bounty. Placeholder is enter bounty amount, right? And beyond that, there's going to be another label for the question. Yes, so the question is going to be the root the square value whose root we have to put as the answer. We have to get as the answer. So let's get the square as the square value. Enter the, let's put a better term, enter the number whose square root is on boundary essentially. And let's get the input, which is the square, which is again a number instead of a text. And this is also a square, and a placeholder is also enter square, enter the number, enter number. Square number, let's just call it that. Okay, the button is going to be deploy bounty, and that's going to deploy the bounty. And let's also initialize the form. So export let form. And what else would we need to do? Yeah. So the next part is we have got the, it's named as bound, not bound, but bounty. And bounty is going to be binded to the input value we have got. The input value is the bounty input, which is having bind value to bounty. Right, so we've got the bounty variable. It is having an explicitly, yeah, any type, that's totally fine. Then we have got the signer. It's signing in with our default email or email and password. That's totally fine, leave it. There will be a problem though. It's in await syntax. It's better if we put it into a function in the backend. So when it is submitted, this will all run in the background. Let's take the square also. This is also hard coded. Better make it a big int value of let square, and no, let's better have the square initialize and then get converted, because we can't have the input automatically as big int. First, all of this would have to go to page.server.ts anyway, so let's take it there. So inside this, yeah, so let's create the same action we created. before. It's already async, so it should work. Const actions, and let's enter all our request data which we are getting. So we are going to get the amount as part of the request. One second, let me bring in the ending part as well for this to return success on successful deployment. So we'll execute the entire smart contract from the backend because it is an async function already. So we can add multiple await requests inside it instead of on the front end what we are trying to do. So all these await functions can go in the backend. In fact, pretty much all of this can go in the backend. We'll check what all needs to be there on the front end. Taking it all out. Yeah, so the front end is very, very simple of this now. And the bounty contract has a backend that is having actions. It's importing the root contract, having the script TS library, Neuron signer. It's signing it. It's using the root artifact to deploy it. Bounty and let are not needed. Yes, rest. Let's bring it in. Into our contract properties. Actions. So in the actions, we have got the delete, not the delete, deploy. Yeah, deploy should be good enough. So deploy action gets called from our form, and what we will do is use the data from the form that we get. So the form will be submitting us the bounty amount as well as the square amount. What is the square value? And then it deploys. And instead of added new applicant here, we will have bounty was deployed successfully. And that would be a href, a link to the transaction ID. Transaction link. Right, so that's that. And here it will have, let's say, the tx. We'll pass in the tx as form question mark dot tx. We'll come to it, and then action will be deploy, and that's it. Let's go back to the page dot server. So we will create a new instance. One second. In the action, for that we will have data dot get square. So square we convert into big int, and then we have the square Then we initialize the root contract with the square big int value that creates the instance. We connect with the signer, and then we deploy the transaction. And there's an amount here in which again we get data.get amount, and that deploys the transaction. Smart lock deployed, what's on chain deployed tx.id. Right, then we have the root answer and then the promise and another deployment there. Let's remove that and take it as part of another action. But first let's try to deploy this contract and also have the unlock action. So the unlock action is also going to be similar. Let's bring in the same part of it. This is going to be unlock. Yeah. So unlock action is going to take in the root value as data.get root and try to unlock it with the root value. After the timeout, even though the timeout would not be needed here. So let it be. It will get the tx, called tx unlock root transaction ID, and it will return. Yeah, it will return. Let's return first. And same with the above endpoint as well. It will return tx is deploy tx.id. Right, so all of this makes up our contract with two actions, deploy and unlock. And if we are doing it correctly, it should work, but there will be one problem, and the problem of instance. Instance should be shareable between both the actions. So we need to initialize an instance here. And that should get shared between this action and this action. Yeah, the second action already got an instance. All right, that should work. On the front end, we need another form to unlock the transaction. And for that, let us duplicate this form. And what are the answers? The answer is only one thing right now, which is the root value. Right, so only one input is needed for the root value, and that is going to be the ID of the input as well, the root, and that is a type of number. It has the name also of root. Enter root answer that unlocks. Bind is also not required. Actually, bind was not required anyway, even while we did this, because we're submitting to the back end of the form and we're not leveraging the front end of what we're trying to do before. So we leave that out. We are interacting with the backend here. And enter the number whose square root is on bounty. That is done. Deploy bounty, gets the contract. The root value comes here. We have the number, which is the root answer, and that is it. We don't require any other field, so we can get rid of this and this as well. And then there's a button for submitting to unlock bounty instead of deploy bounty. So it's going to be unlock bounty. And there we have it. Form dot success. Bounty was unlocked successfully. And here's the transaction link. Let's see what kind of a page we have got. Let's go to the add to the nav bar as well. Another list item, which is our bounty address. Just a second, I'm getting someone at my door. Bounty. Right, let's run this one, run dev, and get this. This is getting very slow. Re-optimizing dependencies because log file has changed. Okay, let me load this now. Yeah, so here we have the bound, what? Unexpected data. Where is it getting the unexpected parse error? Page.server.ts of bounty. I think we left something out. One run dev, and there we have it. So we have got a bounty page. What's the profiles page? Why is the profiles showing the raw wallet? That's the raw wallet page. There is a profiles page, the cloud wallet, and there we have the bounty. Now in the bounty page, it seems we are getting an error. Let's just go ahead and resolve it. It should not be a big one. So in page dot server. Mm, unexpected token at, but it's not supposed to have any at, particularly in bounty page.server.ts pre-transform error. Let's put both of these also inside. I am not able to figure out this issue. So there is an at literal error that's coming when we're trying to run this. What if we had just nothing? Is there an issue on the front end as well? Because I believe there is. Let's first check with very simple form if there's an issue with the front end itself.
कितना टाइम लगेगा?
So there is no problem at all in the front end or even the structure of the back end. So let's try to insert one by one the different contracts. So we are going to be using this provider. Yes, SHA-256 is not getting used. To white string is also not getting used. Let's remove them. The root contract is getting used. The signer is getting used. Let's have that. Let's see how this goes. Okay, the error has already come. So the error lies within one of these. So how about we fix the root contract or just remove the root? Okay, I think the error lies inside importing root itself. So let's import root a little bit nicely. All right. So let's do import root from contracts. Where are we running this at? So we are at inside source, inside routes. So this is source. Yeah, so of course this would get source contracts. So this will be again or just with this. So roots inside bounty. So it was outside of roots. It has to be too. All right, let's try this. Let's check out the root contract. Are we exporting root class? Yes, we are exporting root class properly. Or better yet, what we can do is put it inside lib itself. And that should solve our problem as of now of using lib contracts root. All right, so now at least what we will have, oh, there is a parsing error still. So the issue entirely exists inside the contract. So it's expecting this to be a proper syntax, which it is not. And it's not able to match this or manage this in any way at all. In which case, this would become a problem. We can't import it at all because it's parsing this and it's getting the at syntactical error. because that syntax is part of the script contract. It's not supposed to be read by anything outside it. I don't think this will be a problem that can be solved on the live call. What we will do is we will bring in and share the code after receiving this root transaction, and share the repository at the same link which you already have currently of the repository. I'll update with all of these. Even someone was asking on the channel whether you will get the link with the updated cloud wallet and raw wallet code as well. So we will share the cloud wallet and the raw wallet along with this contract properly deployed, so you can be testing it and knowing exactly how we can be having the payments also done. So there are two issues that we are facing right now with the contract deployment and with the payment, both of which are facing issues. And that should be a better way to resolve this than. Yeah. So, Samikrit, I'll share the link after this code has been pushed, which we solve it. I'm Michael. Yeah, the issue is the at property, as we figured out. Even though we imported it correctly, it's actually reading the entire smart contract as a TypeScript file, which is an issue since it's special syntax of the smart contract. So that is an issue. There is a workaround around it, so it's a longer workaround. So it's better I share the code for it and we take it over from there. All right. So I'll just bring in the link again for submitting the links that you have created of the CRUD application with these these deployments as well of the different pages of Cloud Wallet, etc. on your own with your own Vercel account. So I'm just bringing it up again, and you can use that to submit. You should be able to see this QR code and be able to upload and submit your link. If you are missing this link, you can find it here, and that's all. I'll give you the GitHub, and that's all. Thank you, guys.